This, in case you haven't guessed it, is a conference room. I'm Phil Hyatt, conference leader. And I'm mighty glad to see you out there. It's going to be nice to have someone in my corner for a change. You know, it's a funny thing about conferences. The people who attend them, like the gang that'll be in here in about 15 minutes, they never come alone. Oh, you can't actually see the others they bring along, but you can feel them all around the room. People who affected them 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago. You can't see them, but you know they're there. So, this time I'm bringing my gang along. That's you. And together we'll ride through this conference, sharing the successes, if any, with the bumps, which will be plenty. You see, half the people coming here today hate conferences. Some of them don't like each other. And some, you'll be ready to swear, don't like anybody. Oh, it's a tough job, fellas. Part traffic cop, part varsity coach, with a touch of Klondike Miner thrown in. And you can bet we'll have to dig for our gold in some unlikely-looking hills. How'd we ever get into this spot? Well, a few hours ago, it was just another morning, till the 10 o'clock mail came in, and this letter at the old man's desk. In view of the repeated delays in delivery from your company, we are herewith canceling all orders effective immediately. Well, when I got to the boss's office, the temperature had dropped 60 degrees. Hyatt, he said, round up every supervisor in the place that has anything to do with the D-87 model and sit them down together. I don't want any more explanations. I want results. So, here I am.
There's your list, Mr. Hyatt.
Oh, thanks. Now, let's see. Alden, Matthews. Say, what about somebody from advertising? It isn't strictly their baby, but the boss said to round up everybody connected with this model. Let's get a hold of Ed Conover. These advertising birds are usually idea men. He might come up with something helpful.
Yes, sir. Anybody else before I start phoning?
Why, that little man in inspection, what's his name?
Fairweather.
Yes, Bernie Fairweather.
Right. Oh, there's one of our people out in the hall now. Mr. Matthews?
Yes?
Departmental conference this afternoon, Doug. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. All right.
He's been here longer than the old man. What's he worried about?
It's a habit. Some people chew gum. Doug worries.
A new dealer in the Midwest.
All right, Morel, get to the point, will you? I'm busy.
The point? A new customer should have priority.
Look, Morel, all I know is I got a hold-up shipment. That means somebody didn't do his job right.
Are you trying to imply that
I'm not implying anything, I'm just telling you.
You're telling me how to run the sales department? Well, it so happens I could teach you
You couldn't teach me the alphabet. That is, if you knew it.
Hello?
Yes? Oh, this is Miller, Miss Chapman. What time? I see. Who else is coming? Yeah, Morel's down here now. All right, I'll tell him. There's a conference at 3 o'clock.
Right, but we can't make exceptions. You want the machine fixed, you'll have to send for a maintenance man.
Send for a maintenance man? Go argue with McGregor? Stand around and wait for inspection, then production will be on my neck. How the hell am I supposed to be a schedule?
Don't ask me, Sam. I'm only telling you what's in the union contract.
Oh. Hello, Alden. What? 3 o'clock. Okay. A conference. That's all I need.
Fairweather speaking. Who? Yes, Mr. Hyatt's office. You what? My opinion? Well, yes, certainly I'll be there. Thank you, Miss Chapman. Thank you. My opinion. They'd like to have my opinion and my ideas.
You're what? Get wise to yourself, Fairweather. You haven't had an idea in 42 years. Furthermore, I will not permit our boy to enroll at your dear old alma mater. I've seen the kind of specimens your school turns out, and I won't have such...
Miss Ferguson, would you come in, please, and bring our complete file on the D87 model? I'd like to dictate a memo.
I tried to call you, but there was no answer.
Well, I guess maybe the phone isn't working today.
The phone. Or something.
Well, 4 minutes to go. You do what you can to get ready. Remind yourself of the key steps in the conference, the way it says in the book. Present the problem. Draw out the conference members. Evaluate the proposals. Sum up the conclusion. But let's face it. You can block out your conference in advance. You can make your plans. But you can't really count on them to work. Because the big element in any conference is the people. And that's always an unknown. Oh, sure. You may have seen them around the shop, jotted down a few notes here and there. But people, like icebergs, are 7/8 below the surface. You've got to deal with twists and curves that have been forming for a lifetime. Plus, they're particular problems of the moment. Not to mention those little distractions that make the best of us wander now and then.
I have the name cards ready, Mr. Hyatt. Whom do we put where?
That's a good question. Whenever you can, you group your people like an orchestra leader does, so the drums don't drown out the oboe.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, yes, now, let's see. Our big talker is Roy Judson, so we'll put him over here in the blind spot where I can accidentally overlook him or cut him off fast.
With Sam Alden alongside?
Oh, no, Sam's one of our real strong boys. I want him down there in the anchor spot.
What'll I do with Mr. Miller of shipping? Would this be all right?
Oh, sure. Miller's gonna be trouble no matter where you put him. Just my luck he's not on his vacation. As far as the rest of them go, just put him anywhere and we'll hope for the best.
What about Mr. Fairweather? Should we do something special about him?
Oh, you're darn right we should. Put him back here next to me where I can prop him up if necessary. They'll be along any second now. From here on in, you're on your own. Well, I'll flash you when I can, but right now, we're off to the wars.
Hiya, Phil. I haven't seen you in a week. How's the boy?
Oh, just fine, Roy.
Oh, Phil, you ought to give up cigarettes. Yeah, get in on a real smoke.
Well, thanks just the same, Roy, but, oh, hello, Doug. Come on in. I think you're down there. Hi, Ed. Glad to see you with us.
Hi. Tell me, how long is this thing liable to run?
Till we come up with an answer.
Oh, no.
Now, there's a fine, constructive attitude. But I'm more worried about this fellow coming in. He's a top engineer, but he doesn't see any point in conferences. Figures the front office should solve its own problems, preferably by calling on its college kids, by which he means anybody under 45. Well, gentlemen, I think we're all here now.
Will that be all, Mr. Hyatt?
Yes, thank you. Fellas, the boss asked me to call this meeting because we're in a jam. This morning, we had the third major cancellation in a week, all for the same reason: failure to meet deliveries. Now, I don't have to tell you what this means in terms of the future of our company, and therefore of each one of us, unless we do something about it. So, there's our problem. Now, when I say our problem, I mean just that. I happen to be sitting up here as a matter of convenience, but this is something for all of us to solve together. So let's get to the kickoff, huh? Sam, you're about as close to this as anybody. You have any ideas?
That's a big one, Phil. I only work around here.
Something's eating him, but we can't stop to find out what. Well, maybe we can dig into this from the production side. What do you say, Doug? Do you think the bottleneck could be anywhere in production?
Oh, I'd say, it could be a lot of things.
That's the way it goes some days. Your key people just aren't with you. But you've got to get rolling somehow, even if it means calling on some windbag who wanders all over the map and has to be steered home. I hate to do this, but, this is the kind of person you can count on to get your action started. Let's see if we can keep him down to 5 minutes. Suppose we ask the man who deals with the customer. How's it look from the sales angle, Don?
Well, sure, something's got to be done. But our job is just to get the orders.
How about that? 9 times out of 10, you'd have to shoot this guy down. Today, he can't even get off the ground. Well, you see what I mean? We sure are off to a great start. Just look at those faces. Now, there's a concentrated, intelligent expression. Uh-oh. This'll never do. We need a fresh attack. And here's where that advanced planning comes in handy. One way to get a group moving is to get them to analyze the problem systematically, step by step. Fellas, suppose we take a typical order and trace all the steps it goes through up to final delivery. Now remember, this is what we're shooting for. Now we start here, where the order comes in. Okay, Steve, what happens to an order when it hits the mailroom?
It's broken down according to the product requested and then sent on to the proper section in accounts receivable.
Okay. Accounts receivable. All right, Roy. What do your people do?
Well, Phil, we've got a pretty nice setup. We'll yank out one copy for billing purposes, send one to the customer, and one to sales for their statistics. Now, that leaves us the master copy to be relayed to production for action. Now, this requires careful handling. So all our clerks are instructed, and I take care of this myself personally. You know, I think it's a best practice in a matter like this if you yourself...
Very good, Roy. But is there any way this process might be expedited?
Not at our end, but...
But what, Roy?
Well, you see, we've got 2 men over in accounts. Jim Harris and Wilbur Harrison. Now, Harris, that's Jim. He takes care of the D87 orders, and Harrison is on the F models. But sometimes a master copy of an 87 order is sent by mistake to Harrison. That's Wilbur. And then he has
If
to
that's
see...
happening, it's the VP's office that's responsible. The master on all 87 orders goes up front to Mr. Gilbert, the VP for sales. We have a special request on it.
What? Mr. Gilbert asked for that just as a spot check during the period when our suppliers weren't coming through.
Sure, that should have been canceled 3 months ago.
Well, thanks for telling me.
Well, you must have had a memo on it.
Now, wait a minute, fellas. Looks to me as if we found a place right here where we can speed things up. Why don't you get together with Roy tomorrow, say 11 o'clock, straighten out the details.
Well, that's that. We sure polished that one off fast.
Now, take it easy, Ed. Let's keep things in perspective. Clearing up this mix-up on the mails will probably save us 2 or 3 hours. But our deliveries have been running behind by 2 or 3 days. So, let's go ahead with tracing our imaginary order. Now, the next stop along the line is production. Okay, Doug. Now the order's in your lap. Your move, Doug. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
See a doctor about it.
What? Well, that's very funny, Doug. I guess you mean an obstetrician. A doctor who will help us with deliveries. But seriously, fellows, we're trying to get after these delays.
See a doctor. That's a hot one.
Well, I'll tell you where you can start, with sales. Half the orders that come into the plant have to be rechecked because the language is no good. It's too vague. The specifications aren't complete. So production has to get on the phone and chew up valuable time.
Now, wait
While
a
the
minute.
salesman is out making more wild promises.
Let's not put the rap on the fellas out in the field, just because they're not here to defend themselves. What I mean is, sure, a salesman may skip a detail now and then when he's out grabbing a tough customer on the run, but we get the orders, don't we? And what does it all come to? A phone call now and then. Don't tell me that's where the trouble lies. No, sir. Let's look at it this way, Phil. If your car breaks down on the road, what do? Do you go fussing about the windshield wiper or worry about the door handle? No. You go right to the heart of the matter. The engine, the place where the spark is made. And that's what we ought to be doing. Concentrating on the place where the product is made. Why, there's an old Chinese saying, he who see... No, that isn't the one.
In other words, Don, you feel that Sam's operation is the key to the problem.
Absolutely.
He's right, Phil. No getting away from it. Not much we can do about turning the stuff out faster. Talk to Sam.
The parts don't match up, Sam.
Maintenance can't handle it.
It isn't up to standard, Sam.
To stop the production line.
You're running late, sir.
Now hold it! I'm sick and tired of being the whipping boy if everything goes wrong around here. Why didn't somebody tell the truth for a change? All right. I'll tell you why we can't push through things on time. Because we have fancy inspection standards. Because the design engineers are always pulling last-minute switches while some bright-eyed genius of method runs in to stop my production line. Because every time I need a break from shipping, I get a song and dance about overtime.
Overtime? What are you talking about?
Shipping just won't play ball. That's what I was saying this morning.
You're right, Don. You know, I've had some of that trouble myself. Okay, yes, man.
I'd rather have a yes man around than a no man.
Well, you know, for 3 weeks I was waiting to...
I'll wait a
3 weeks.
Sometimes arguments are helpful, but not this kind. We'll have to break this up without stepping on anybody's toes and put all this energy to work where it'll do some good. All right, fellows. All right. Now, let's remember what we're here for. Suppose we try to boil down our objective a little. What we've got to do is this. And we'll never do it by pulling in opposite directions. Let's see if we can't get together on a few things. Now, Sam mentioned production materials that clash with inspection standards. Anybody want to comment on that? What about this question of design engineering changes? Where do you think the main conflict is there, Russ?
There's no conflict that I'm aware of. I get my orders from up front and follow through on them as rapidly as possible. I suggest other departments should do the same.
This looks like one of those murderous days. Get a load of that guy. There's one at every conference, and no department has a monopoly on them. But you can't let him throw you. Let's bear down on this, gentlemen. We've heard several different approaches here, but I'm sure we haven't canvassed all the possibilities. Isn't there some idea we've left out? Roy? Don? How do you like that? First they charge off in every direction, and then they come to a dead stop. And that's your worst point in a conference. Well, everybody's talked now except Bernie Fairweather, and nobody's heard a word out of him since the Coolidge administration. But that's my mistake, letting him sit there without taking part. And it's a mistake many conference leaders made before me. It's the old story. The squeaking wheel gets the grease, and the Fairweathers are left silent. Well, it's time we rewrote that one. There are ways of getting a quiet man to talk, so let's try one and see how it works. Bernie, with all your experience in inspection, I'm sure you can be of some real help on this problem. Now, let's take today, for example. Approximately how many rejects would you say you've had so far?
Exactly 17. That is up to 5 minutes before 3. But I have an idea that may help, if I can continue.
Well, yes, certainly. Go right ahead. We sure need some ideas.
You know, I don't like to send things back for not meeting standards, but what can I do? I mean, sales and engineering set the standards, and it's up to me to see that they're met. I don't want anybody to think I'm criticizing, but, well, I've been working on a little plan. You see, we've been using the same technical standard for both our top grade model, the D91, and our cheaper model, the 87, offering in both cases a lifetime guarantee. But the fact of the matter is, nobody wants to use the 87 for more than 5 or 10 years. I have a few customer letters here from the sales department confirming the point. That means we've been causing ourselves unnecessary delay by rejecting D87 materials which are actually quite adequate for their purpose. We could eliminate this time loss by developing a separate set of standards for the 87 based on a 15-year guarantee, which is still 5 more years of service than anyone wants to get out of it. Now, there's nothing revolutionary about this idea. We've used it on other lines. But I think it would cut down the delay that Mr. Hyatt is worried about.
And this is the guy I put next to me so he wouldn't clam up. But he's made his point. We can't let this turn into a lecture meeting.
By this method, I estimate we could speed up deliveries by more than 20%.
Thanks, Bernie. That's a very stimulating proposal. Don't you agree, Sam?
Well, I don't know. Sounds to me like twice as much trouble out on the floor. 2 sets of figures to argue about, 2 operations for methods to mess around with.
Say, that's the second time you've mentioned methods. Let's get one of their people in here.
The changeover won't be too complicated, Sam. I've got a system all worked out.
It's easy, Sam. All you have to do is take Fairweather's jigsaw puzzle and put it together.
It's now or never for this conference. We've made a start, and we can't afford to slide back. Thanks, Bernie. You've made a real contribution, and I think the rest of us should be able to follow through on it. Now, let's see how we stand. We still have our problem of eliminating delay, but we've saved a few hours by straightening out the flow of papers, and now Bernie's come up with something that looks as though it might save days. How about each one of us thinking over his own operation, see if we can find some way to turn Bernie's idea into time saved. Russ, you've been around here longer than any of us, and your judgment's valued accordingly. Would you say that this modification of the D87 standard would present an impossible designing problem?
No, I never said impossible.
Well, exactly what would you have to do?
Well, you might want to reset our test equipment, that's all.
Precisely.
But would our customers be satisfied with the change?
Well, heck, Russ, I'm more concerned about that than you are, but the customer would still be getting 50% more than he wants.
What about sales, Hyatt? That's where you're going to get your squawks.
Oh, I think we can leave it to Don Morell to work that out.
Well, sure. That's part of a salesman's job, to protect your goodwill. I mean, it's simply a question of making sure that the dealer understands what's going on, that the customer isn't losing out in any way. Now, you take the average dealer.
I've got a
going to
bump
argue with
here.
you when you prove to him that he isn't really having anything
Don't
taken
you know
away.
what that means?
Now, there are a number of ways in which you can handle
Give me
this.
the idea that...
I remember one time at the West Coast...
Well, you're crazy, man. That's just a natural bone formation. Look, everybody's got it right there.
Well, I'll be darned.
Sure, that's just part of your sternum, man.
Sternum.
Yeah.
Sternum?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Doug, Don Morell's just been telling us how sales would handle this separate standard for the D87. He'd have a simple, direct explanation made to the dealer. I think we'd all like to hear what adjustments you can foresee in production.
Separate standard. Oh, you mean Fairweather's idea? Well, I can see one good thing right away. We'll be able to use second-grade materials that we've been scrapping. That'll save us time on the 87s.
Huh? You suppose we can work with this idea to take some of the pressure off Sam?
Well, let's see now. Yes. We could make a preliminary check on incoming materials and put all the doubtfuls on one side. That way, Sam won't run into any substandard parts on his top-grade model.
Now you're talking, Doug.
Done. On those mix-ups on orders. I think we can dope out a way to lick that.
Say, maybe what you fellas need is a basic form.
Right, remember that A11 we used to have? Now, we could modify
I
that.
think the B-series was more practical.
No point in taking up everybody's time on this one, Doug. Why don't you drop in at Doug's office tomorrow around 10? I'll join you and we'll work it out together.
Right, fine.
Now we're rolling. But we can't really wrap this up unless Sam Alden comes along.
Did you send for me, Phil?
Excuse me. Yes, and I'm sorry I overlooked doing it earlier. One of those slips. We've been kicking around some notions on how to speed up deliveries, Larry, and we could use a hand from methods. Grab yourself a chair. Here's our chance to pull Sam Alden in by appointing him spokesman for the group. Okay, Larry. Sam, will you fill Larry in on this proposal of Bernie Fairweather's?
Well, the main idea is to set up a new standard for the D87 instead of having it meet the same tests as the 91. Like it is now, we're making the 87 stand up to a lifetime quality test. According to Fairweather, nobody wants to use it that long.
Maximum use wanted is 10 years, and we can easily cover that with a 15-year guarantee.
Say, that's quite a thought, Mr. Fairweather. And I can see a methods angle, too.
That's what I was afraid of.
Oh, now look, Sam. We can make a few new jigs to accommodate the oversized parts we've had to throw out up to now. Like this.
Not bad, Sam.
Yeah? What about stock storage for both sets of parts?
You've got a point there, Sam. Any idea how we could get around that?
Well, there may be a possible way. Doug, you remember those old bins we locked in the stock room?
You mean use them?
Why not? They're lying idle now.
Now we're really off to the races. The best thing we can do at this point is to leave the boys alone.
Hey, that's a pretty good idea.
Okay, I can do that.
I guess we could phone you in advance on changes, Sam, if it would help.
It sure would.
I see what you mean, Don. If I could just find a way of handling my overtime.
Look, Cliff, as long as you know what I mean, I'm not worried about the rest.
Fellas, this is what we've achieved. First, we've uncovered a minor misunderstanding between mails and accounts receivable that'll be ironed out at a meeting tomorrow. Second, we found a number of places where cooperation can be improved, and we'll discuss action on these at separate meetings over the next few days. Finally, we've come up with an important new idea that'll be implemented by the departments involved. I'll send each one of you a reminder of the action you've agreed to. Thank you, gentlemen, and good afternoon.
Well, it sure calls that one.
I'll see you all later, fellas.
Thanks, Phil. Ernie? Well, Roy, I'm glad to have you there on my left hand. Very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Cup of coffee, Bernie? Cafeteria should still be open?
Oh, I'm buying.
Well, gentlemen, thanks, Roy. Goodbye, Mr. Hyatt. Goodbye, Bernie.
So fine here. So long, Phil. Come on, Russ.
So long, fellas. Well, there were a couple of times I thought we'd never make it, but we did, and I'm glad you came along.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Uh-oh. I'll be back with you in a minute.
So long, Phil.
How'd we make out, Mr. Hyatt?
Well, we got 9 out of 10.
Not a bad batting average.
Not bad at all. 9 men who've not only agreed on a solution, but who feel they're a part of it. It's a solution they'll carry out, too, because they've thought it through for themselves, created it in terms of their own problems and needs. And that, after all, is what a conference leader's for. Not to be a mastermind dictating the answer, but to make men think. And any time you can achieve that, well, what do you think?